Oh my goodness, bitch, you guessed it. It is I, Shanti Tay, coming at you. Today we're going to be talking about non-attachment, specifically when it comes to fear-based control and ownership over shit that's not yours. In the yogic scene and in the spiritual scene, there is this concept of non-attachment. Now, what in the frickin' heck does that mean? What it means is to let go of fear-based control. Allow things to unfold, yeah? Where things can get misinterpreted is like aloofness, kind of this detached, like so much detachment that maybe the person isn't grounded or in their body, or just not maximizing what this life can be for them. And that's a huge freaking bummer, in my opinion, and also, in my own teacher's opinion. There's so much misinterpretation to some of these spiritual concepts, like non-attachment, like neutrality. We've talked about neutrality before. So non-attachment doesn't mean you don't care about shit, okay? Non-attachment means that you're not experiencing fear-based control or a false sense of ownership when it comes to stuff in your life. That's what that means. Now, how do we put that into practice? That's a whole ball of wax. How in the frick do we practice this in reality and then still live a freaking life where we get to do stuff in care, right? In care. All right, so question first before we get into the action. I'd love to invite you to have like a little self-psychology moment that looks like, where might fear-based control play a role in your life? Are you a person that's able to just kind of like surrender and let the chips fall where they fall, and regardless of where they fall, your system is bolstered and strengthened in a way where you can handle and shoulder the pressure regardless of the outcome, regardless of the unfolding? Is that you? And fuck yeah, dude, if it's you, comment down below. And if it's not you, comment down below, because guess what? We're all in different phases and different stages, okay? And this, by no stretch, is easy. It's not. We've been trained in the contrary, okay, to this concept. So, fear-based control. Whenever we have a control kind of issue, or when control, the desire, the need to control a circumstance, a person, a whatever, that's always fear-based. Now, the fear might be coming from your past, typically, yes. Far back from the past. When I'm working with a client, I'm usually looking at 3 different lines when we're kind of untangling stuff. And one of the lines is the soul lineage, meaning like, okay, well, what's been the evolutionary process of my soul thus far? Yeah, what's the mission, the soul's mission here? Okay, then I'm going to look at the genetic line, meaning like, what imprint has been passed down from the ancestors, the parents, the whatever. Okay, what are we working with in the genetics? And then I'm looking at the history line, meaning what has happened in your particular history in this particular life that's led up to, it impacted this kind of fear-based control behavior. Yeah, that's what we're looking at. So have a little self-psychology moment. Look at, if you're a person that has stuff with control, yeah, because that's a big one when it comes to practicing non-attachment and really getting into kind of like this higher flying energetic space as we live a freaking life on planet Earth. Okay, so fear-based control, something to address. How do we address this? Well, we're going to address that particular piece by going over here with this little pivot and looking at where you might be taking ownership over something or someone that isn't yours. And I love this exercise. It's so wonderful. In a healing center, I would often hear coworkers and colleagues referring to clients as their clients, taking ownership. Whether maybe you're a teacher, are you saying the students or my students? And you can really kind of point that thing in any direction. And this is a really wonderful piece of kind of like neuro-linguistic programming that's so easy and so simple, and can be tricky to catch. I get that, especially if it's like a really hardwired pattern, and speech pattern. But this is really how you can take a first practical step into letting go of fear-based control that will ultimately lay down such a solid foundation for non-attachment. So that's my invitation for you, and obviously an invitation for me to go deeper with this practice, because we always I don't care what stage of the game you are in when it comes to self-development, self-help, all of that. I mean, we all have layers of the onion to peel back and all have work to do. So look at where you might be using particular thought and speech patterns that sound like my client, my student, my restaurant, my whatever. Now, here's the thing. Even if you outright financially own something, for the sake of this particular practice, I'm going to invite you to try on switching. Let's say you own a restaurant, okay? Switching it from my restaurant to the restaurant. Let the entity have its own identity that's less entangled with your own identity as a person, right? Because you as an individual, that's like indefinable, yeah? And so allowing the restaurant entity to have its own kind of unique experience separate from you can be so beneficial when we're looking at practicing non-attachment. Because let's say something happens, one of those moments of shit hitting the fan, hits the fucking fan, in order for you to have an opportunity to participate in a lesson that you already potentially said yes to prior to incarnating. But of course we sign up for amnesia, so you probably don't remember. But the lesson here of the shit hitting the fan will directly impact the evolutionary process of your soul. And that lesson might look like you lose the restaurant. It goes under, whatever happens, the restaurant closes. Now, when you have practiced non-attachment and the restaurant, just for this example, closes, I'm not suggesting that it won't suck, but I am suggesting it will suck way less when you have transitioned your thought patterns, your speech patterns, and then your beliefs around ownership when it comes to my restaurant versus the restaurant. It really works that way, and it is so freaking powerful. Same thing with, this has been so ingrained. My boyfriend, my girlfriend, my husband, my partner, right? If you can get into a space where more often than not, you're just referring to the person at their name. Potentially describe it as you're in a relationship. I'm in a relationship with such and such. The more you can untangle and detach ownership over another person, because it's false. Yeah, there's a false sense of ownership when we even say the words my husband. Oftentimes, maybe not in every case, yeah, but I would say oftentimes. And then maybe, the practice there could be just referring to that person as that person, without even having like the precursor of defining the relationship that you have with that person. In, let's say you're introducing them, right? I mean, you can bring it up, right? But maybe introduce them just as them. Before, you might be like, hey, this is my husband so-and-so. Hey, this is so-and-so. Yeah, we've been married for blah, 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 right? Not to say you don't bring it up, but instead of taking ownership, this is you state their name as an individual, and then you can maybe present an explanation of how you guys know each other or how you're connected. This is how you fucking live non-attachment and yet still participate in life. It doesn't mean that you detach from life, detach from people. It means that you detach your belief systems around the illusion that you have ownership and control over shit that you do not. Okay? When you can get this down, you will live such a more wild, passionate life. You will have more courage to show up and do challenging and tricky things because you're no longer, having that vice grip of control or that vice grip of ownership. Yeah? You can just allow things to flow, which sounds so frickin' cheesy. I know, dude. Like, please believe. But literally, like, being in the flow of allowing things to just take place and knowing that you have all the tools and have set the foundation of, this non-attachment piece, that you can just trust that everything's working for you, that nothing is working against you, that the universe, God, whatever you want to call that, is a neutral medium just following your lead. So the more you practice fear-based control and false sense of ownership, you're going to attract more and more and more of those circumstances that essentially will just fucking block the flow of abundance and stress you the fuck out, okay? And the more you can use these tricks around switching your thought patterns and your speech patterns when it comes to that fear-based control and false sense of ownership, the more wonderful and exciting and fulfilling and passionate your life can be. All right. I'd love to hear how this lands with you. I hope you are all doing so freaking amazing, B Squad. You know how much I love you all. This community is just like a huge high five. Fuck yes. And I'm outside. Oh my God. So much love to you all. Satnam.